rural schools in this area had many things going for them, but they had many things that today we think are necessary in the schoolroom. There was no hydro, but every schoolroom was equipped with cola lamps, so that if there was something going on at night, they would light the lamps. There was no running water in the school. The water came from a well or a spring or the river. And over here we have the water pail and also one of the urns from one of the Walford schools. And that's where people got drinking water or washing water. There was a wash basin over there, and people would wash their hands in the wash basin. There were no indoor washrooms. There was an outdoor toilet, and that's what was used. There was no central heating system. The school was heated by a stove very much like this, although the ones that I remember were, I think, a little bigger than that. But that was, and the boys, the older boys, or the teacher would keep the stove stoked with wood during the day to keep the place warm. I read in some minutes from the first township school board that they ordered for 2 of the schools out Birch Lake Way, they ordered 10 cords of hardwood and 5 cords of softwood, which would be kindling wood, for the year. There was no gym, but the children played outside, and even when there was snow, they loved to play out in the snow. They had lots of exercise. And when it was desperately cold, I at least used to say, all right, put on your coats and boots and so on, and go and run around the school 3 times and then come back in. And that let them get a little bit of exercise, get outside the schoolroom for a few minutes. There were no school buses, and children walked to school, sometimes quite long distances. And they had no way of getting to school otherwise. In any one-room school, you had all 8 grades, and in some schools you had up to grade 10. So everybody was in the same room, and people learned to work independently and take out the extraneous noise and just work on their own. I think teachers in those days had more flexibility than they do today, and in doing things like accelerating students who were very bright, and they might do 2 years in 1 year, 2 grades in 1 year. They might do, or they might simply skip a grade. Children who were slow learners were sometimes, often, usually, held back to redo the year. I went into one school where I had 2 little 6-year-olds in grade 1, but I also had a boy who was 11, and he was in grade 1. And the reason he was 11 years old and in grade 1 was that his parents really didn't see any value in education, and so if he didn't feel like going to school, he didn't have to go. And however, the year that before, just at the end of the year before I went to that school, the attendance officer had visited the family, and he had told them very firmly that they must send their son to school every day, or in danger of having the police come and take them away. He frightened them enough that the year I was there, he came every day. But he was so much bigger than the other little 6-year-olds. And one day, and I learned he'd been going to school for 5 years off and on, and so he had progressed through some of the grade 1 work. And so as a result, I had sort of 2 grade 1s. There was a 1A with the the two little 6-year-olds, and then there was one me with this 11-year-old. And one day I heard one of the other children saying to him, "Oh, you're so stupid. You're in grade 11, or you're 11 years old and you're only in grade 1. And so I put a stop to that, of course. But I thought about it, and then I thought, okay, I had no one in grade 2 that year. So about a week later, I just told everybody in the class that this boy was now in grade 2. And he continued to do grade 1 work, but in actual fact, it made all the difference in the world to him, because I think he believed that he was going to spend the rest of his life in grade 1. And finally, he was in grade 2. And so that year, he completed all the work for grade 1 and was well into grade 2 work by the end of the year. And so teachers were able to do that. I don't think they could do that today. I think teachers wouldn't be able to do that today, but I could do it because I was all by myself. Let me see, salaries. The first year that I taught, I was paid $100 a month. But then I came to the Massey area and I had a big raise. I got $125 a month the first year and $135 a month the second year. And I thought I was really being pretty well paid. Massey had a continuation school, which is just another word for high school, but it only went up to grade 12, and at that time there was grade 13. So if students in the continuation school wanted to go on beyond high school, they would have to go to Sudbury or the Sioux or somewhere else in order to do grade 13. There was a school bus along the highway which brought students from Spanish and Walford to the Massey Continuation School. But the rural students had to make their own way because there were no school buses on the back roads. And some of them walked long distances or skied in the wintertime or rode bikes in order to get to school. The Webwood children came to the Massey Continuation School too, and they came by train. They would catch the train in Webwood in the morning and come up, because there was a train twice a day, one going up to the Sioux and one back. And they would come up on the train in the morning and go to school. And then after school, they would go to someone's home who would feed them their evening meal and give them a place to do homework. And then about 7 o'clock, they would go back to the station and catch the train back home to Webwood. So they managed to get, all of these people managed to get an education up to grade 12, and some of them went on to grade 13. But I do think that the students in the rural schools got a good basic education. They had to learn to work by themselves because the teacher did not have time, with 8 classes to teach, did not have time to spend time with any one group, any length of time with any one group. And they would, so the children learned to work on their own and take what help was available, and they got a good basic education in that time. In 1963, all the rural schools closed, and the Township School Board had built Geiger School, and it was for the rural students. The Massey children went to Massey Public School, but the ones from the country areas all went to the Geiger School. And I'm not exactly sure when they changed that to make Geiger School into a primary school. It was from grade 1 to kindergarten to grade 4. And then the Massey Public School was from grade 5 to 8. But and in earlier times, all of the children at Geiger School were from the country area. My name is Florence Erickson, and we are here in the school gallery in Massey Area Museum. And it's although it is a smaller space than the regular schools, it's a very good representation of what the rural schools were like.